So we're going to open with a prayer treatment. And so I invite you to just be comfortable and allow yourself to settle in for these moments that are to come. I take a breath and I allow the breath to simply carry me, knowing that it is a spirit-filled breath. And I move along the airways of my body into the space that I know that all is well. There is only one power that is moving through me all the time. And I allow myself to simply settle into that in this moment, knowing that it is good and very good. It is a joy to stand in this place and to be a part of this movement, this place, this building, these people, and this service, knowing that there is so much good that's going on, and I celebrate all that is happening, and I allow myself to just be part of the one thing. Just as I am part of the whole, I am a vital part of the whole, as are we all. Each of us is significant, unique, special in the eye of God, in the mind of God, and in creation. And so we allow ourselves to simply move through the intelligence of that as we move into this service, knowing that it's absolutely done with joy and with gratitude. And join me and say, and so it is. So before we get started in the service itself and the talk, we're going to have announcements. So here we go. Now, we've been asking everyone at the beginning to consider silencing your phone. And as you silence your phone, and I thought about last night when I looked at that, I thought I could say, or I'll just come back there and answer it for you. But I think I will skip that. I don't want to answer your phone. So here are what we have, the things that are going on. We have 2 certificated Science of Mind classes starting on the same night at the same time. That's September the 4th, and it is at 6 p.m. And so the one that Reverend Gregory is teaching is called Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, and he's inviting those who haven't had courses before to be in that foundational course, which leads to many other things. The course that I am teaching, his course is going to be taught here in this sanctuary. The course that I'm teaching is called Exploring the Roots of Science of Mind. It's happening in Richelieu Hall. And the idea behind Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, it is foundational, it's fundamental, and we talk about that. That's just something that we've said, change your thinking, change your life. And how do you do that? So we dive into that course and take a look. Exploring the Roots of Science of Mind is all the places that Ernest Holmes got all of the things that he puts eventually in 1926, 27 into that textbook, and many of the things that we quote and we do and we talk about, and that is great fun. And so we're moving through all of that. Now the teens this coming Sunday are having a great bake sale. This is August the 31st, 5th Sunday, and they are having a bake sale, and they are going to be a part of service. I'm reading these announcements today, but a teen is going to read them on Sunday. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be really cool. It will be Camille, and I know she's going to do a wonderful job. And they're encouraging you to make a donation, buy a cookie. I don't even know what all they're going to be baking, but they are going to be making things to sell. And I believe that this is the first bake sale since COVID. We now have about 11 teams. And so we have grown in such a short time. And I think the wonderful Robin, who has become the part of the youth and family leader, is just building a great program. Maureen is our teen leader. And so they're meeting every Sunday now and really moving into something special. So I invite you to support them for Teen Camp, which is coming up in January on this coming weekend. Also, on the 31st, this Sunday, Reverend Mary is going to be having a workshop that will be next door in Richelieu Hall after service, and Reverend Mary is doing the service on Sunday. And the workshop is entitled Tada, which is the Tada mindset, and it doesn't say on here what it means, but TADA, T-A-D-A, is an acronym. And so we will leave that to the flyer outside to explain exactly what that is. Now, Friday, this coming Friday, is that right? Yes, the 29th. Today's 27th, 29th. We will be having another ecstatic dance that we are trying out a Friday night and see how that goes. It'll be at 7 p.m. in Richelieu Hall. So you know what to do if you've come before, and if you never have, it's a great experience to try. That's what everyone says who goes. Then we are moving into September a little bit. On the first Sunday in September, which is September the 7th, we are having a town hall meeting. And that town hall is going to answer, the Board of Trustees and Reverend Gregory will be doing that, answering questions, reporting to you things that have gone on, things that have happened, things that are going on. So it'll be just a very nice informational meeting. And then also on September the 3rd, which is the week before the 7th, we will have the Labyrinth will happen over in Richelieu Hall. That's September the 3rd. And the next night, September the 4th, is when both of the classes start. So what is also happening on September the 6th, that's a Saturday, Reverend Gregory is going to be doing a workshop with Mark Ruth, and it's a critical thinking workshop. It promises to be very interesting. It starts at 10 a.m., and that again is on Saturday, September the 6th. Now, Monday was what I was about to say. Monday on Labor Day, we are going to be closed for the holiday. So just remember that. Now, the men's group is going to meet on September the 8th because of Labor Day on Monday. They're not going to meet on a holiday. Normally, they meet on the first Monday, but it will be on September the 8th in September. We're also reminding everyone that we do have quite a number of volunteer activities, especially in hospitality and also in our friends table out front. And I can't tell you how much volunteering in hospitality has meant to me over the years. I made a career out of it almost. So I think I learned a lot too. I learned a whole lot in ways that are inspiring. So I encourage you, it's a helping hand. It's a wonderful way to do that. And you get to greet people as you go. So consider doing that and spread the joy around to all of the other volunteers that we have. We are concluding, but doing one more Sunday of the Rainbow Service School Supply Drive. My daughter Maureen has done this since 2005 or 6, 5, I think, and she has been doing it all this time, and the need is just always there because it's ongoing. This is a women's shelter, and these are sometimes families that leave in the night and they walk away with what they have on their back. And that's how the reason for the school supplies came up to start with, because they're going to a new school, everything is different, and having fresh backpack and fresh pencils and fresh crayons is just, we all know how that feels sometimes from our childhood. And that's what inspired her to keep doing this, is that need being there. And so that is what we have for announcements. Oops, didn't turn it over. We have the Lost and Found that is next door. We're only keeping them for 4 months, and so that's a big change because I would see the same sweater in the drawer for it seemed like a couple of years, but that's going to stop. If you lose anything, even if you don't think you left it here, it's worth checking just to see if there's something there. And flyers for everything that we have is right out front. More detail perhaps than you're getting up front. And it's a good thing to know all of the things that are going on. And we do appreciate our volunteers. I can't tell you how much we don't run this center well without them. This is a big, big deal. They're back there in the back cheering themselves. Yes, and they should. Volunteers are the lifeblood of what we do. And so, as we move into the speaker today, who is yours truly, however, we are going to have this wonderful music by our favorite lead musician, Elise Carver.
Catherine, thank you so much. This song is a real favorite of mine. It's called The Moon Song, and it's by the wonderful Olivia Fern. I went for a walk under the moon. I asked her for a song through the darkness, through the darkness of my fears when all else disappears. Oh, the darkness of self-doubt will burn out all of your lightness, all your lightness. So let go of the shadow of shame and blame, praise and gain. You are more. Oh, just be who you are. And she sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Be bold and bright. Look into the light. She sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Be bold and bright, reflecting the light. She sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Bold and bright, reflecting the light. She sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Be bold and bright, reflecting the light. I went for a walk under the moon, and I asked her for a song to guide me on through the darkness, through the darkness. The darkness of my fears when all else disappears. Oh, the darkness of self-doubt will burn out all of your lightness, all your lightness. So let go of the shadow of shame and blame, praise and gain. You are more. Oh, just be who you are. And she sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Be bold and bright. Look into the light. She sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Be bold and bright, reflecting the light. She sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Be bold and bright, reflecting the light. She sang, child, be unafraid to shine. Be bold and bright, reflecting the light. Be bold and bright, reflecting the light. Be bold and bright, reflecting the light.
Reflecting the light, be who you are. You could take your, I'll just use it. It'll be okay. I'll just stick something there. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you saw the title of the talk today. I titled it Life in Its Fullness. And I don't know if we'll have a slide to come up. If we do, you can bring it up whenever you want to, Grant. It is the full sentence that I had read by Ernest Holmes says, life is forever present in its fullness. And life is with a capital L, because we say on Sunday very often, there is one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And that's the life we're talking about, that fullness of life. And Ernest Holmes says it is forever present in its fullness. That means right here all the time. Now, I am guessing that I am maybe not the only one that sometimes wonders how that works, because maybe I and we or some of us don't always feel it like that. And so what I've given a lot of attention to in this time that we're in is how we express our understanding of experiences that we have as well as what other people have. And I look back, and since I'm getting ready for Roots, and one of the things that, one of the writers that Ernest Holmes depended on probably the most significantly was Thomas Troward. And so if he says life, if Ernest Holmes says that life is forever present in its fullness, Thomas Troward said, literally, the originating life principle is infinite. It is a single unit. Whatever it is at all, the whole of it must be present. So he's saying, and he gets this from Troward, that we're fully present wherever we are. And so how do we feel, and how does what we feel, how is it affected by what's going on around us? One of the things that I read recently was part of a book that someone shared with me, and it is a true story, and it happened now about 25 years ago. And it all began with a crime. There was a rape murder that had been committed, so the authorities in Norfolk, Virginia, in this particular area, were very interested in finding the person who did this. And in their eagerness to do this, they picked somebody. And they decided that they had somebody. So they, in short, tortured the person until they ultimately gave them ground and ultimately confessed. And so when DNA came in and said, this guy wasn't there, instead of letting him go, they go, oh, he must have had an accomplice. There must have been two. So then they pressured him into naming somebody else. So he's been literally tortured into giving up a name. And he falsely confessed. He gave up a name that just came to him. And the same thing happened again. And when the DNA came back, it wasn't this person either. This whole scenario grew to the point that there were 7 people. And they had convinced themselves, in spite of all the DNA that said these people didn't do it, in spite of the fact that they had alibis, some of them definite alibis, all that was thrown out the window. There was a failure of law enforcement, of prosecution, of even the whole court system. And this went on for a while. Of the 7, 3 of them were more resistant than others, so they didn't ultimately get prosecuted and taken to prison, but 4 of them went to prison. And 1 of them was there 7 years, and none of them had anything to do with it. This is also in spite of the fact that they actually went for an 8th person who actually was the real guy. And he said, yeah, I did it. And none of these rest of the guys had anything to do with it. I did it all by myself. It didn't matter. They had already said it, so they had to do it. It took a very long time for all of this to get corrected. In fact, as I said, it's 25 years ago, and ultimately they were given pardons by the governor of Virginia. This was a big deal. But what I was really interested in is the lives of the people that confessed and went through this and went through real torture and about their lives. And I'm thinking about one of them in particular. He was the one who suffered the most. He was never able to get on with his life. The rest of them remembered this forever, their prison time and the way they suffered, everything. But this one really was never able to get on with his life. He lived with his parents. He had a lot of therapy and a lot of things going on, and it was just simply a situation that he was forever broken. And so I'm thinking about that. Life is present in its fullness forever. And so what happens when we lose ourselves? And so this is an extreme example. Most of us don't have this, but it happened. This is a factual thing that happened. And I think many of us get ourselves emotionally involved with other things that we see and how they're happening. And how do we feel about that? And what should we do with those feelings? And so that's what I've been thinking about. One of the things that I learned a long time ago is that I am responsible for my own experience, and no one else is. And that is a huge lesson to learn. And sometimes you can still fall into that feeling of, well, it's called victim consciousness, when you feel that something has happened. And so I wonder about all of that, and that's what's been coming through my mind. Ernest Holmes tells a story about a young woman, 19 years old, and she came to him. She was hip, happy, healthy. She had a fiance. She was really going to be enjoying life. And her problem that she was having was with her mother. Her mother was she was a wonderful, supportive mother, but she worried all the time. And she was haranguing her mother about all these things that could go wrong and all of these different problems. And she said, would you please talk to my mother? Well, so Ernest Holmes agreed, and he talked to the mother. And so when he chatted with her, the mother said, oh, she's right. I worry all the time. I just worry about everything. I've just always worried. That's just how I am. Well, Ernest Holmes is not going to accept that that's how she is. And so she came to the right person who is going to not tell her, no, you're not, but he's going to walk her through a number of ways to move out of that space. And so in thinking about that, he was saying that worry is actually, according to psychologists, it's an anxiety-producing, anxiety thought reaction to something. And that's a term that he was using in the course of his talking with her, or at least thinking about this, and how it is something that many of us do. And he actually told some other stories about how worrying about something interfered with their lives. And a successful salesman who was not able to do what he had done before because of the worrying and anticipation of what could go wrong. And talking about how destructive the concept of worrying is. Some of you may remember I did a workshop last October called When Fear, it's the book that we talked about, it's When Fear Speaks, Listen. When fear speaks, listen. And he talks about the 7 messengers of fear. The first one is anger, but the second one is worry. And he goes on to talk about how pervasive it is in our culture and how it brings on different ideas. And see, Ernest Holmes discovered that the thing you think you're worrying about is not what you're worrying about at all. There's something that has happened, maybe in your childhood, and Ernest Holmes speculated that, parents in their unconscious way of saying, no, you can't do that, don't do that, you are a bad boy, you are a bad girl, and build up certain things that produce a level of anxiety that comes out in different ways. And that's what Ernest Holmes said. And so in this particular book, he speaks of worry as having the stepchildren, that the stepchildren of worry are anxiety and regret. And he goes on and talks about how we deal with those things. It is, he also quotes Deepak Chopra, who says that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. 95% of them are thoughts we had yesterday. They're not creative today, we're repeating. Now, some of those thoughts are okay. I mean, because I thought yesterday and the day before, I've got to get started on my 24 taxes, and I'm going to think it today, and I'll think it tomorrow till I get it done. So some repetitive thoughts are things that we don't want to forget. But in that 95%, there are things that are recurring in our own mind that are destructive. And so what Ernest Holmes says is that we have to stop the pattern of worrying. And how do we do that? And so he suggested doing affirmations, and he suggested an affirmation. He said this one is one that I have the power to take dominion over this undesirable and negative thought pattern. I have confidence and faith in myself. I am not afraid. Every moment, my faith is growing and expanding. No negative thought can cause me to waver, for my thought is one with God. For my thought is one with God. And so one of the things Ernest Holmes also talked about he was expressing the views of Coué. I don't know if you remember. I talked about him once at some talk or other. And his idea, he's a French psychologist, and he achieved great success with people who had all kinds of issues going on with repeating every day and every way, I get better and better. And so he even said, need to do that 20 times. And I created a little knot pattern so that you could do it as almost like prayer beads. But I am also wearing a mala bracelet. It's a mini mala bracelet. We made these at camp. They have 27 small beads as opposed to 108 larger beads, which is what mala beads generally are. And it's the idea, the spiritual idea of saying your affirmations and just working through the beads. You're not counting as much as you're just simply saying that. And you're overwhelming your consciousness with what you wanted to know, as opposed to that repetitive thought, like what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know how I'm going to do this, and this is terrible. And the overcoming whatever it is in your childhood, in your teen years, whatever has happened to you that you've not been able to get past. We are not victims, and we can know that in an intellectual sense. But sometimes getting into that feeling is something that we need to pay attention to. And why do things happen to us in the first place? Well, part of it is simply nature. It is nature taking its course. Ernest Holmes said, this is 385.1 in the textbook, nature does not let us stay in the same place for very long. Change will come, and we should welcome it with joy in our heart and a spring in our step. And some people go, ha, I don't want to do that. But that is what he's saying, because change is part of our evolution. Our whole nature, in fact, I love the synchronicity of things. We're reading seminar lectures in the book reading before this class. We literally read that it is our nature to evolve and change. And that's exactly what it is. We're changing every moment. Now that's mind-boggling, because you may not feel like you're changing right now. But the cells, everything, it's changing. Everything is happening as the way it's supposed to happen. Or again, I can find the Trower that supports that. We are always evolving. We are always moving forward. And so when that happens, or when we ignore the change, and we do sometimes, I think it was Deepak Chopra that says that you're eavesdropping on your thoughts all the time, and that when you are urged to change, it might be a whisper, it might be a little bit of a shove, but if you don't listen, it'll kick you out the window. Have any of you felt kicked out the window before? I definitely have in 2025. I absolutely did. Now, in the process of what happened that I'm thinking of right now, I never thought that it was something happening to me, but that didn't mean I was able to move through it immediately. I had to do my work. And see, Ernest Holmes, in many ways, shows us exactly how to do that. And it may be the mantras, it may be prayer treatment, it may be just doing contemplative reading, because we're all different. I did mine mostly with my morning work and affirming what I needed to know about myself and what I needed to know about life. It didn't make me like what happened. I needed to fix it. Something needed to change. But see, liking it and fixing it are not the same as feeling gobsmacked about it. And that whole feeling of having been, how did this happen? Why me? That whole part of it. See, that's what we have to move through. And all of us sometimes can be there briefly. That's the way it is. I think that's what you've heard on this platform. We can be there briefly, but we don't have to live there. We move on to that next level of who we are, because it's in our nature to change. And we can accept the fact that it's in our nature to change. And occasionally we run across situations where things are not necessarily good for you, but then you realize, but good comes from everything. And something good comes from this particular thing. I know when we were about to move to California, it was kind of a hectic time. And we had a car that wasn't brand new, but it could make the trip. And I got in an automobile accident. Somebody hit me. I went, gee, I don't want to have to do all of this. And so, everything was paid for. There was no problem. And so as we were about to do this, I thought, well, we'll just get it all handled. I got my estimate. Coming home, I was rear-ended. So then I had two things. Good grief. But the way it happened was two insurance companies that didn't need two cars. So one gave me a car, the other offered me just a cash thing, which helped pay for this other thing on the car that was already broken that we got to get fixed. So, see, that's not so bad. And then we also had a medical thing, a big medical thing that happened right about that time, and that we were going to have to pay for. And it was over $1,000. So what happens? It's near the end of school. I'm in the school parking lot. I get rear-ended again. And so this man doesn't want anything to do with insurance. He wrote me a check right there for $1,000, and it paid for the medical bill. So I'm just saying, you don't always have to be. That happened. I actually had forgotten that till I'm thinking through all of this stuff last night. I've had a number of things in my life that have happened that it's like, good comes from everything. And when it happens here, it's so much easier to see it happen in other places, even when it's a little cloudy, that there is purpose in this. And sometimes it may mean that you need to change your thinking. That may be what it is. I mean, I am speculating. You are the only one that gets to decide what this means to you. That doesn't mean you don't see a practitioner. It doesn't mean you don't do your work. But you also need to be in that space where you're open to understanding. Because just because change is happening all along means that we have the opportunity to grow all along, that we keep growing in our understanding. And this gobsmack, this nature thing that kicked you, is your soul's way of helping you grow. It's just the way life is. That's what Ernest Holmes says, because life is forever present in its fullness, forever. And so we are moving into that. So they're not only shining the light, they're leaving it on. So I'm going to assume that means it's time. And so let us simply know that there is always space and time for each of us to grow into ourselves and be even more than we are right now. That the evolution of me is always upward. It's never backward. And so if it feels backward, that's only because it's a feeling. I know that it's always upward, always forward, because that's really the way life works. Life is forever present in its fullness. And so knowing the truth of that, I find peace. And I'm grateful to know that there is always good, that the life on the scale is always good and better, no matter what. And so I allow myself to simply be in that space and know that all is well. I invite you to join me and say, and so it is. So I think it's time for us to share our goodness and share our bounty. And giving of all of our things is it's one of the best things we can do. I think I've said before that Dr. Anita used to tell people when they came for counseling, you need to do two things. You need to tithe and you need to volunteer. So we've been asking for both of those things. This is your opportunity to grow. This is one way. And so here we are. The texting is something you can do. How many of you have tried doing the scan thing? Yes, I'd like to see that. I think it's just kind of fun. So I try it, even if you're giving $1 or $5. It's just fun to try. And then obviously you can just go to the website and give, and you can also do the call the number and do that as well. There's just so many ways to do it. You want to make it easy. And you can also just put it in the plate. Cash is good. Cash is great. And so I personally prefer online because I can do it anytime, anywhere. So I like to have it that way. So we are going to affirm with our affirmation now. I think there it is. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love, and so it is.
This next song is called Who You Were Born to Be by Lucinda Drayton.
No more time to waste, no more excuses. Gotta reach out your arms and embrace the sun. No more time for self-pitying abuses. Gotta stand up and shout and say, I am the one. 'Cause there's been too much crying and talk of being free. You gotta jump off of that cliff and be who you were born to be. No more time to waste on photos of the past. There's a star with your name on it and a love that's going to last. 'Cause there's been too much holding on and talk of being free. You gotta take it all with you and be who you were born to be. Now I know the ice is melting and the ships are going home, and the wind is getting colder and we feel more alone. So stop all your excuses, got the answers all for free. Jump off that cliff and be who you were born to be. Who you were born to be. No more time to waste, no more excuses. Gotta reach out your arms and embrace the sun. No more time for self-pitying abuses. Gotta stand up and shout and say, I am the one. Yes, you are the one. 'Cause there's been too much crying and talk of being free. You gotta jump up off that cliff and be who you were born to be. 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 Who you were born to be.
Jump off that cliff and be who you were born to be. Yes, what a great title with that. So as we're entering into this part, anybody have questions, comments, requests for prayer? This is that space and time. Yes, I'm going to go stand by this speaker and I can hear better. Oh, microphone.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so here is my thought. I'm struggling right now with what's going on in this moment in this country. And listening to your sermon 20 years ago in Virginia, I don't think we have to go so far. I mean, it's down the road, people being arrested unwrongfully and being sent in intention, whatever you want to call them, and sent to other countries where they're not even from, because they're accused being illegal. And I'm really struggling what to do about it. And listening to your sermon today, all I heard is victim. I get the whole concept. I'm in this teachings for a long time. And worry, don't worry. But honestly, I don't think that's enough. I think we have to move our feet and do something. And maybe I'm very sensitive to the whole thing because I'm from Germany and the whole history. And there's definitely some old wounds there, but my parents didn't speak up when there was a Reichskristallnacht. But honestly, I'm not sure what is the right approach from today's message. So maybe if you can help me to find my answer, I would appreciate it. Maybe some prayer. Thank you.
I appreciate the question. I probably wasn't as clear as I was meaning to be. I took the example from 25 years ago. I was completely aware of the parallels involved. But I was taking the distance from it because it also had an outcome that it just took a while. But the thing about it is, when something happens to anybody else, regardless of what it that we can do? And if we feel called, because we can only change ourselves, we cannot change anyone else. And if we are called to actually do something, then we need to think of what that is. And there are things that you may be called to do that you can do. And some people are. They're doing certain things on their own, doing whatever they're doing. One thing we can all absolutely do is pray for the idea that minds and hearts are changing because Spirit is moving through everyone equally. I can only change this consciousness, but every day I include the prayer that I know that Spirit, that life is present in its fullness in every expression of God, and that Spirit is moving through, offering ideas of loving, wholeness, spiritually affirmative ideas and words and actions that can change the world. I believe that that is one way to go. I don't physically know what else I'm going to do. Besides that, I can give money, I can show up at things, there are things. But each of us, I would never suggest to anyone else that they do a thing other than pray for the idea of wholeness, Spirit, love, to embody me to the point that I can communicate that this is what we want to do. And the truth is that people have been abused throughout history. We know about this and we're seeing it every day and our heart goes out. But the more that we embody the awfulness of it, it's reflecting back on my own thought. So I have to allow the fact that, yes, I do not like this. What can I do? And each of us answers those questions and how we approach it, what we think about it. And this is not a topic that you tell people how to solve. It is an incredible situation. And when I look at what happened 25 years ago, I still think it's mind-boggling. And that it took so long, and it was a microcosm. And one of those people was in prison for 7 years. It's hard to believe, and yet it happened. Ultimately, there was, as I say, they weren't just let out of prison. There was a pardon, a full pardon, a declaration of innocence. All their rights were back for all of them by the governor of the state of Virginia. But we want something more satisfactory than that. We want something now, and I understand that. And I cannot tell you how to get there. That's what I cannot do. But I think that for yourself, you need to find a way, other than expressing the outrage that you feel, which I'm not criticizing at all, but find a way to come to some level of action on your part, whatever that is. That's what I got. And I really appreciate that you asked the question. It was in my mind as I was doing all of this, and I didn't draw the lines as directly as I might have. Anyone else?
Thank you so much for your talk. I loved it, and it felt so relevant. And I was wondering if we could do a prayer treatment. So I experienced something very traumatic, and I'm safe now, and I've recognized that it's now the maybe PTSD or worry in my mind, and so I'm in a mind training to repair and to feel the peace of God as my base neutral after that experience. And so I would love to experience or have a prayer treatment to help facilitate that process.
I would love to do that. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I would also suggest that every day that you spend time at whatever your morning practice or evening practice, whatever it is, but spend a certain amount of time every day, not just doing affirmations, but reading those things that you find comforting, uplifting, that give you insight. Because growing in your own thinking is the best way to, you may read something that lifts you in a way that you're not expecting. I mean, that's my experience. And when I call out for that, it's amazing what just drops into my experience. I believe that we get what we pray for. I believe that when we call Spirit, we get it, and we may not recognize it at first until you read and see or hear and see whatever your way is. So I invite you to truly explore that, because I know that as you're questing for this, you do find it, Lauren. I know that. That's the way it works. That is exactly what it is. We get what we are calling for in our soul. So let us just simply take a breath. The power that God is absolutely in me in fullness right now as I speak this word for Lauren. And speak this word for wholeness to move through an experience that has leavings so that they just dissipate into the nothingness that they are. This wholeness, this completeness, this love that fully embodies how this is the beauty of creation. There is a wholeness there that's within us that has never left. There is no falling off the path. The path is always clear. It's our way of thinking through anything that stands in front of us that feels like it is blocking our way. We are merely moving our thought to a higher level, to a better way. And I know that the love that surrounds this consciousness that we are, that is the giving, that is the presence, I know that the beauty, the joy, the happiness that moves through us in every way that comes to us brings us closer to being completely free of whatever feelings that we have that we do not want. We all have emotional moments that we react to. Our feelings are those things that we want to nurture and grow and move into a space that is loving. At some point, we look back at things that have happened and go, oh, yes, that happened. And now I'm in a place to know that I am this child of God who is whole and perfect in every way. And I am growing every day and finding new experiences, and I move through all of them because I have a resilience, I have a courage, I have a determination that powers me through whatever lands at my feet. I'm jumping off the cliff to find that beauty, that love. And so as I take a breath and another, I allow myself to be completely cleansed by that healing, spirit-filled breath and know that there is only God. There is only God. There is only God. I allow myself to embody that idea, knowing that it crowds out, pushes out, overcomes anything else. Because that's the way it is. And in gratitude for the teaching that helps me to know that good and only good is coming from this. I allow it to be and say, and so it is. And sometimes you need to ask someone else to do a prayer for you too. And that's the way it is with all of us. Thank you for asking. Anyone else?
This is in response to this lady's comment. Reverend Katherine, you gave one way of responding. This is another way that I've learned about recently. And Joe Vitale brought this man's work to the rest of the world. His name is Dr. Hugh Lin. He's the Hawaiian teacher who modernized the ancient Hawaiian practice of forgiveness called Ho'oponopono. And his background is he was a Hawaiian psychiatrist in a prison for the criminally insane. And everybody was quitting because the inmate patients were convicted of heinous crimes, and they were either shackled and drugged. So when he came on one condition. He did not want to have to personally meet with and counsel the inmates. What he did was he would read their files. Each file that he read, their story, every reaction he had, he would say the Ho'opono prayer, which is only 4 phrases. And by cleansing himself, eventually the inmates were not shackled, they were off of drugs, and after several years, miraculously, they had to close down the place. It wasn't needed anymore. They were out. And so he said that the work was not about them. It was about himself, what was in him that helped to contribute to this consciousness.
That is a true story. And it is, I think we've all heard of it. So thank you for reminding us. And it is miraculous that he never even talked to them. He just read their file and prayed over it. He did it every day. Everyone, every day. I mean, that's part of the practice that he did. And it's an incredible story. Thank you. Anyone else? You all are a terrific audience, and I thank you for the participation. So if there is nothing else, then let's go forth and do good work and be a presence for Spirit wherever you are. Just allow yourself to shine in your glory. And you change the world too, simply by being who you are. You absolutely